Hey everybody, it's the Nitty Professor, and today I thought it'd be fun to talk about thrifted yarn and fiber. So I have a number of examples here, and as I kind of blab a little bit, I would be really curious about your experiences in shopping for yarn and fiber at places like Salvation Army and Goodwill, because over the years I've looked into some pretty nice finds, and it takes a little work. Obviously, there's a lot of yarn and fiber that you can find that you might not consider desirable. In my case, I'm always after the wool. So I've had some interesting experiences, and I've looked into a lot of Lopi, which is kind of interesting. So literally, oh, the cat's playing the piano. This sweater is made up, I think, entirely of thrifted wool. And I've shown you this one on some separate videos and expressed how this blue yarn, I was just hell-bent on, I wanted to knit it up. Shh, the dogs are going crazy. Even though I knew I wouldn't have enough. I knew I would run out. And so, yeah, enough. Yeah, we don't need to hear from you. But I had this olive along with it. And like, if you just look at the olive and the blue together, those two colors align beautifully. And so I tried to integrate this lighter olive, and then, you know, the purple I thought would go well with the turquoise. So I had to, come on dogs, integrate a lot of creativity. That's almost a advantage of picking up thrifted yarn, because you're gonna find random colors, remnants. I'm always shooting for something that's wool. If it's wool, I'm like, yeah, I gotta have it, you know. And that was the case with all these yarns. And there are different kinds of yarns, there are different weights of yarns. The white is probably a little bit lighter weight than the purple, than the olive green, and then the Lopi, which is, a lot of people would consider that an Aran weight yarn, but I just made it work. You know, I wasn't going to be deterred. And as a result, I have this really beautiful heavy duty sweater. Been getting a lot of use out of it lately, because the temperatures here have been in the dumpster. They've been extraordinarily low. And another thing I think is beauty of thrifted yarn, so you can find really good prices. Hey, calm down. A little bit of the yarn that I have going here, so this brown and this sort of glistening pink, and this purple blue rainbowy kind, those were hand spun by a friend of mine, so they were gifted to me. I'm sort of intrigued with this brown. I don't even know what this white stuff is, and I was just like, well, you know, I got it, and it's lovingly given to me. I don't know what's going on, but you know, it's like a cool color. It kind of blends in with the rustic nature of this old Reynolds Lopi. And of course, I got this Lopi for a song, so I thought to myself, well, hey, come here. The husky is trying to hump the golden doodle, so we don't want that. Come here, Benny. The advantage is that I can experiment. I can take a risk. I feel like it's not like an investment that I'm gonna, quote, ruin the yarn if I make a mistake. And you know, to be honest, after I first finished the sweater, it seemed a little tight, and I was like, oh heck, I don't know how much I'm gonna wear it. But since then, I've lost 20 pounds. So now, guess what? It fits beautifully. And it was a fantastic investment. And it turned out well. I did a good job. I worked hard to try to, you know, figure out the patterns. And I didn't really worry. It's like I could relax and have fun. And if I made a mistake and it ended up being a disaster, I was out $15, right? As opposed to 150 or something like that. Here's another example of, so here's a sweater that I knit from yarn that I inherited, because tragically, the mother of a friend of mine, actually mother-in-law, passed away during the pandemic and was a huge knitter. And she was like, I know you knit, and I want a good home for this yarn that belongs to someone who's close to me, that where I know it's going to be appreciated. And so this sweater is entirely knit from her yarn that she couldn't enjoy knitting because, you know, she succumbed during the pandemic. And so that makes me, you know, it's like I'm carrying on someone's legacy. In fact, I have a whole pile of yarn in my stash that was the result of someone who passed away and left their yarn at Goodwill. And I kind of stumbled upon it. Whoever, and I don't know who the person was, like I can kind of guess because this is not such a big town that I'm, you know, couldn't guess who it might have been. But whoever that person was had exquisite taste in yarn. A lot of the yarns had clearly been used, but some of them were designated for projects. And there they were, you know, the spouse who was left with the yarn didn't really know the best thing to do, so ended up at Goodwill. And I found it there, and I'm trying to steward it the best way I can. In fact, some of it has ended up in my daughter's possession because I'm encouraging her knitting skills. Some of you met her over Christmas, and we did a really fun video together. So she does enjoy knitting. She's really busy, and she's more of a sewist, but yeah, so there is kind of this opportunity to take someone's, you know, legacy and the yarn that they had, and it could end up at the thrift store, and then you can inherit that and try to steward it in a way that's meaningful and that does a kind of justice to that collection. In fact, the current chapter I'm working on in my novel involves a collection of fabric on the part of an ailing retired theater professor, and I'm going to build in a kind of a plot element where there is, you know, like passing the torch to the next generation is made responsible for stewarding the final resting place of all the beautiful fabric that the theater professor, costuming professor, collected. So it's really fun to like write about, you know, these material things that we accumulate. Our husky is a little scary, so Paris is defending herself by jumping on the piano. It's like, yeah, I like this image of like passing the torch, you know, taking up where someone else left off because that was their time. But I can continue their work in a way, their creativity to, you know, sort of keep their life going in a material kind of way. Here's another thing that I made out of thrifted yarn is this scarf, and I don't have, I'm such a fan of bright color. When I buy yarn, I'm like, ooh, turquoise, ooh, neon green, ooh, neon orange. I made this neutral scarf from Thrifted Yarn. I believe it's Lopi. I think it is. It could be brown sheep. I'm not positive. I don't think it was labeled, but it's wool, and I wear it all the time because it's one of the few scarves that I have that's a neutral color. So I can show you some of the yarn. This yarn, I've been showing off my tube scarf that I've been making lately with motifs from Susan Anderson Freed. And here's one of the yarns that I incorporated into the Griffin. I don't have it with me right now, but you can tell how old this is. I mean, this probably dates back to 1960. Look at the label on here. Isn't that like from Kresge? I'm not sure. Is that like an old Kmart label? I don't know. It says 97 cents. The American Thread Company. Let me see what else it says on here. It's snarl proof. I like that. It's like it's not going to snarl like a dog. 100% virgin wool. I mean, this was the kind of yarn that people bought at Woolworth when I was a kid. If you're old enough to remember Woolworths, you'll probably appreciate this yarn in a way that, you know, aligns with my appreciation of it. But it's made in America, used for Afghan sweaters, fashion, accessories. I'm trying to find out where in America it's from, but it doesn't say. Just the brand is Dawn. But look at that color. I mean, that color is just so cool. And so I used it for the Griffin, mixed with the cream, mixed with this color, right, in the first square of my tube scarf. And I'm pretty sure I found this at a Salvation Army store in Omaha. And here's some of the Lopi that I've been using. This, the original Reynolds. And I don't even know when this dates back to. If you all know how far Reynolds Lopi goes back, I'd be really interested. It's like the 80s. It says a division of JCA, Incorporated, Townsend, Massachusetts. It'd be interesting to know more of the history of some of these companies. I'm really interested in the history of fiber preparation, fiber milling, textile industry in general. Here's some more Reynolds again. So this was in the collection of the woman who passed in 2020, but it's obviously, you know, it's the same. So I don't know, I want to say this is 80s or 90s. For all I know, it's more recent than that. But the Reynolds Lopi, they were kind of like they introduced Lopi into the United States, I think. If you know more than me do, I would love to know more, because I mean, I think it'd be cool to see books more about the production of wool, yarn, fiber in the United States and in the Western world generally, because so much of it now has moved over to Turkey, it's moved over to China, it's moved to South America. So people are saving money and everything. But I always like buying local. You avoid all those transportation costs, for example, but so much of the milling equipment is gone, which is sad. Here's another green that I used in the sweater that I showed you from the blue. That's the yarn that I used, and I almost used it up. This is a South American yarn, I remember. And here are a couple of skeins. There's Paris. Hey, Pear, come here, come join us, babe. Come, your audience awaits. Everybody loves Paris. So this I picked up at a flea market. It's a mohair wool mix. I don't know if it's hand spun. I wouldn't like rule it out. It looks mill spun. But this is also a thrifted, and my daughter decided, ooh, this would be great to make a hat. And then she promptly left because she was only able to stay here for 3 days. Yeah, you can christen it by sneezing on it. That's great. Good job, Paris. But I think she's right. This somehow or other, I'm gonna make a hat out of this, or she's gonna make a hat out of somebody's gonna make a hat out of these, because they do harmonize well. Not sure what that's gonna look like, but let's just look at now thrifted fiber. So here, yeah, now Paris, you're doing your trick again. Good job. You're being a vedette, a little star. You just love having attention, don't you, sweet cat? So in this bag here, this is all fiber that I either got for a song, thrifting it, or was given to me. And I've got, on the one hand, this sort of nondescript wool. I think it says, shh, me. The label clearly states wool. We have no idea what breed. Maybe it's one of those breeds of sheep where the people were like, oh, these are meat sheep, but yeah, here's some wool. I don't know. And this is some camel, and this camel has a lot of vegetable matter in it. It's also got some hair in it that's totally not cardable, not integratable into the rest, but there's some good down in there as well. So what I've been doing, as some of you know, is I've been carding, let's call it 3/4 wool, 3/4 camel with about 1/4 of the wool. And so here's what's good about this. So this, hello kitty cat, it cost me next to nothing to get this fiber. So what's nice about that is I can basically experiment. I can just take a risk, and you know, I have no idea how well this is gonna work, but here's what I've made out of it. It's just in an old bag. So I recycle bags too, right? So we're thrifting, we're recycling, we're doing all the good stuff. But I feel like the way it's coming out, so I'm carding twice basically, and I'm learning as I go. I've sort of realized that some of the guard hairs, like the really coarse hair from the camel, it just is shed from the carder. I can't really include that in there. I have to be selective, but I also have to learn to be selective. There's still a lot of veg matter in there that may or may not all come out. But I haven't spun it yet, but I'm gonna see how it spins up. I kind of feel like it's gonna spin up pretty well. Hey, I was gone for several hours today, so the dogs they're going nuts, and it's like 3 degrees. So am I gonna take them on a long walk? I don't think so. But in any case, now here's another instance. So this is wool that I got. I did some videos about this earlier. It says greasy white New Zealand. So when I got the wool, it was basically raw. So I learned how to wash it. And again, it was free. I didn't worry about how it would turn out, you know. It was just sort of gifted to me, fell in my lap. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. You know, it's like there's no risk. And I think it turned out really well. I can spin that beautifully. I have no compunction whatsoever about getting that spun up into a nice plied yarn, and I learned a lot, and I didn't worry because it didn't cost me anything or next to nothing. So you can learn how to spin that too. You know, I've gotten some free carded wool, and you know, you have to learn how to spin, right? It's not something that comes naturally. So this is what I spun. Is it terrible? Pretty much. But guess what? The wool didn't cost me anything. And in the meantime, I learned a useful skill, and now I know how to spin wool pretty decently. I've been told I do it pretty well. So I'll just let that sit there, because, you know, there's probably plenty of people who would see what I spun and they'd be like, no, we got to fix some things. But most of my friends, they are pretty good spinners, and they're like, yeah, you're doing a really good job. So that's because I learned by practicing and doing this. And I could learn practicing doing this because guess what? I had wool that didn't cost me anything. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, and I would love to know more about your thrifted yarn experiences and maybe strategies for how do you go about looking for really nice yarns, and maybe some stories you have about how you came by the yarn that you have, what you ended up doing with it. You know, do you agree about the idea of carrying on someone else's legacy, or using the yarn fiber that really didn't cost much in order to learn, because you're not really afraid that you're gonna ruin good yarn, you know. I mean, it's still good yarn, right? But I didn't have to work, use a day's wage to pay for it. So let me know your experiences, your thoughts on this whole topic of thrifted yarn. And I see Benny there. He says hi. Benny. Yeah, he's having too much fun. Here, he can say hi. Come here, Benny. Benny, come here. Say hi. Benny, where are you? There he is. There's Benny. Hey, doggies. You having fun? Huh? Sparky's having fun. Looks like they're playing with the ball. And Paris says hi. And we'll be back soon with some more fiber antics. So everybody have a great day and great week. Take care. Bye.